Mitch Bradley was summoned to the Capitol Thursday to clear up questions about that controversial second strike on a suspected drug boat back in September.
FIFA, I did not know that strikes unaliving defenseless people in water would grant you a peace prize. I didn't know that. We could go on with the examples. Let's talk about it.
After the closed door briefings, lawmakers from both sides agreed Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth did not give the order to, quote, kill them all, as reported by the Washington Post. But that's where the agreement seemed to end.
What I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service. You have two individuals in clear distress, without any means of locomotion, with a destroyed vessel, who were killed by the United States.
Republican Senator Tom Cotton saw something else.
I saw two survivors trying to flip a boat loaded with drugs down for the United States, back over, so they could stay in the fight. This was witnessed by literally hundreds of uniformed and civilian personnel at the Pentagon.
A decorated former Navy SEAL, Bradley made the call to hit the alleged drug boat with 4 missiles in all. A source familiar with the matter tells CBS News the decision came as survivors were climbing back onto the boat, trying to salvage some of the drugs, and appeared to be communicating with other boats in the vicinity. Hegseth defended Bradley earlier this week.
And by the way, Admiral Bradley made the correct decision to ultimately sink the boat and eliminate the threat.
But the DoD's Law of War manual states that shipwrecked combatants are in a helpless state, and it would be dishonorable and inhumane to make them the object of an attack. Hegseth himself is under fire after the release of an Inspector General's report saying messages he sent on the commercial messaging app Signal put service members at risk last spring as they were about to launch airstrikes against Houthi militants in Yemen. The report states Hegseth shared sensitive information of the impending military operation over an unapproved, unsecured network on his personal device, strictly prohibited by the Department of Defense. Democrats who saw the video of the missile strikes in the alleged drug boat are calling for Admiral Bradley to testify in an open hearing. There's no word from the Pentagon on whether that will happen or whether it will release the tape to the public.
Okay, so pause at your leisure. I want to be clear. Senator Cotton, awesome name, specifically says get back into the fight. You've seen the footage that they've shown us so far. That wasn't a fight. If that was a fight, that was incredibly one-sided. I want you to look at above. This type of situation is a law enforcement situation, not a military strike situation. Because we, again, are not at war with Venezuela. Pause at your leisure again. Look what it says, U.S. criminal law. That would mean that the first strike itself, since again we are not at war, and if it were true and these boats were going to the United States with the drogas, this would be considered drug trafficking. You take that with us officially not being at war, and that there was no imminent harm to life, there was no reason for those missiles in the first place. There wasn't. Actually, do you guys ever wonder about that? I mean, those boats are pretty small. They don't look like they can really stand up to really anything that the U.S. has to offer. You would think they would just roll up in a big boat or a helicopter or a few and say, hey, little boat, you should stop or we're gonna, You guys ever wonder why that's never come up? Maybe I'm missing something. But hey, let's entertain this. Let's say there was a war, right? Again, not officially called. Then no matter what, that would mean that second strike violates Article 12 of the Geneva Convention. It's right there. It just does. It just does. There's no way to talk yourself around it. Oh, they're trying to scoop the drogas back in the boat. Look, all circumstances. The law strictly prohibits any attempts upon their lives. Obligation. Parties to the conflict must, after any engagement, immediately take all possible measures to search for and collect the shipwrecked. What is there to argue about? I don't understand. The only thing I can see that you would argue about, and this is this is, I think, the center of it all, is why are there laws if people don't care about them? Because it's right there, it's written in front of you. Whatever excuse you have, it is right there. All circumstances, any attempts upon their lives, must after any engagement. I mean, why do they even teach us how to read? Why are there laws? Why can't we read? Right? It's right there. The words are there. So again, the real question is, do we care? Is there any accountability? That's really the only argument. And I wish guys like this Cotton guy were more upfront, because that's really the issue. That's the subject. Does he care about what is written in the laws, both in the US and internationally? I have a long background in QA. I've been in QA for over a decade. I've been a producer. In both of those jobs, we rely on one very important thing: what is written, what is stated. What is written, what is stated. If it does not behave the way that it is written, then there is a problem. That's how it works. And then you have a conversation. You go, hey everybody, this is behaving differently than how it was written. How are we to address this? Because we can't just leave it the way it is written but have different behavior. Why do that when you can just change the writing or fix the issue? Right? That's the only two. Either you change the definitions of what we call laws, or we fix the problem. So again, I ask you, do you care? That's the only question here. Everything else they've been saying is an excuse, because again, the words are clear. And yes, if you're wondering, that's a slippery slope way of thinking. I would argue that these crimes here are of the top utmost of crimes, because it involves the unaliving of others. There's only one other type of crime that I think is above that. You guys can guess what that is. So if anything below such crime, you get what I'm saying? Happy Friday. If you guys like what I'm saying, give me a like and share. If you don't like what I'm saying, give me a comment. You all have a good Friday, and I will talk to you later.
President Donald Trump just won a prize for peace. No, not the Nobel Peace Prize, but FIFA's first ever peace award.